He was the ultimate romantic, hauntingly handsome, heartbreakingly refined, and emotionally complex. But behind Charles Boyer's soulful eyes was a life of quiet tragedy, a man who lost everything he loved and chose to follow them into death. From forbidden affairs on screen to unimaginable grief off screen, this is the untold story of a Hollywood legend who lived and loved on his own terms. If you love classic Hollywood with depth and drama, hit that subscribe button. There's more where this came from.
If I could only get inside that brain of yours and understand what makes you do these crazy, twisted things.
Gregory, are you trying to tell me I'm insane?
It's what I'm trying not to tell myself.
Charles Boyer was born on August 28, 1899 in Figeac, a small town in the Lot region of southwestern France. His father was a merchant, and Charles had a relatively quiet, middle-class upbringing. He showed a passion for the arts early in life, especially theater and music. Despite being a shy and introspective child, Boyer was drawn to performance as a means of expression. His life changed dramatically when he lost his father at age 17. Still, he continued his studies, eventually moving to Paris to pursue a degree in philosophy at the Sorbonne. But the lure of the stage proved stronger. He enrolled in the Conservatoire de Paris, where he studied acting and quickly distinguished himself with his refined manner, elegant diction, and brooding screen presence. Boyer's acting career began on stage, but he transitioned into silent films in the 1920s. His earliest screen appearances were minor, but he rapidly became known for his intense, soulful eyes and understated performances. Silent film directors cast him in romantic or melancholic roles, although he hadn't yet reached international fame. During this time, he worked with some notable French directors and gained steady employment. However, his real breakthrough came after the advent of sound films, where his deep, accented voice became an additional trademark. Boyer moved to Hollywood in the 1930s, where the studios were eager for new European talent. By the early 1930s, Hollywood was actively recruiting European talent, especially with the arrival of sound films. The studios wanted actors with distinctive accents and continental sophistication, stars who could appeal to both American and international audiences, fresh faces to pair with their established female leads. Charles Boyer, already an established stage and silent film actor in France, moved to the U.S. in hopes of building a Hollywood career. At the time, he was not fluent in English, and his heavy French accent was seen as both an obstacle and a charm. He had already appeared in some French and international productions, and his dark looks, soulful eyes, and quiet intensity made him stand out. This got the attention of MGM talent scouts, who were looking for someone to play a brief but memorable role in a racy new pre-code drama. His first big English-speaking role came in Red-Headed Woman, 1932, with Jean Harlow, where he played a charming gigolo. It didn't make him a star, but it got him noticed. His real breakthrough came with The Garden of Allah, 1936, opposite Marlene Dietrich, and even more so with Conquest, 1937, where he starred with Greta Garbo as Napoleon Bonaparte. His role as Napoleon was ambitious and commanding, showing his ability to combine romance with historical gravitas. Critics praised his subtle approach to the character, though the film itself received mixed reviews. By the late 1930s, Boyer had solidified his status as a romantic leading man, known for his intelligent, emotionally complex characters. Let's take a closer look at the films that defined his journey from an unknown European newcomer to a timeless Hollywood icon. Red-Headed Woman, 1932. Charles Boyer's Hollywood debut in English.
Albert.
My darling.
Oh, say it in your own language.
Ma chérie. Ma petite chérie.
I've got the most marvelous news for you. I'm going to marry Kirsty.
Oh, sweet.
Directed by Jack Conway, written by Anita Loos, from the novel by Catherine Brush. Starring Jean Harlow as Lil Andrews, a ruthless, sexy gold digger. This was one of the most notorious pre-code films of the era, an audacious tale of a working-class woman who sleeps her way up the social ladder. Jean Harlow's sexually aggressive performance shocked and fascinated audiences. Charles Boyer's role, Albert, the French chauffeur. Boyer played Albert, a suave and flirtatious French chauffeur who becomes one of Lil's lovers in her climb to the top. His screen time was limited, but his accent, mannerisms, and chemistry with Harlow made the part memorable. In one brief but telling scene, Lil seduces Albert, showing her total lack of scruples. Boyer plays it with a kind of detached charm, subtle, smooth, and suggestive, without needing to dominate the screen. At the time, MGM was casting several European imports in minor roles to see who might catch on with U.S. audiences. Boyer's experience in French theatre, his growing presence in European cinema, and his photogenic quality made him a strong candidate. Also, he had just completed a Hollywood screen test arranged by Fox and later MGM, which impressed executives. Jean Harlow's team was looking for an exotic male foil for her brassy, all-American blonde bombshell persona, and Boyer fit the mold. Though he wasn't yet a fluent English speaker, the limited dialogue and his natural charisma worked in his favor. Following Red-Headed Woman, Boyer didn't immediately land leading roles, but he did gain more substantial roles in both American and French films, invitations to improve his English and work with dialogue coaches, a reputation as a refined, cerebral romantic actor, the opposite of brash American masculinity. Shanghai, 1935, a key step towards stardom. Before his major Hollywood breakthrough, Charles Boyer appeared in Shanghai, 1935.
Now that he is gone, I am free. From now on, the land which offers me the greatest opportunity will be my homeland, and through with sentiment. Henceforth, I sacrifice my life to a new cause, myself.
A romantic drama directed by James Flood and produced by Paramount Pictures. He starred opposite Loretta Young, playing Dmitry Kozlov, a Russian agent entangled in espionage and romance in the politically volatile city of Shanghai. While Shanghai wasn't a blockbuster, it gave Boyer a more substantial English-speaking role and allowed him to showcase his signature charm and quiet intensity. The film helped further establish him as a serious romantic lead, and his chemistry with Loretta Young was noted by critics. Shanghai was an important stepping stone that bridged the gap between his early supporting roles and the leading man status he would soon achieve with The Garden of Allah and Conquest. The Garden of Allah, 1936.
Please, Dominique, don't question me. There are things in a man's life it's best to forget. There are dark places which should be left dark.
I don't want to remind you of that, Boris.
Charles Boyer's breakthrough. Background of the film. Director, Richard Boslowski. Stars, Marlene Dietrich and Charles Boyer. Production company, David O. Selznick's Selznick International Pictures. Notable achievement, one of the earliest films made in 3-strip Technicolor, giving it a rich, exotic visual appeal. Based on the 1904 novel by Robert Hickens, The Garden of Allah was a romantic desert melodrama set in North Africa, designed as a visual and emotional spectacle for Depression-era audiences. It was also a prestige production, marking Selznick's first major independent release, and the studio had huge hopes for it to compete with other major Hollywood epics. Charles Boyer's role, Dominie N. Filden's mysterious lover. Boyer played Boris Androvsky, a man hiding a dark past. Boris is a Trappist monk who has fled his monastery after suffering a crisis of faith and purpose. While wandering through the North African desert, he meets Dominie N. Filden, played by Marlene Dietrich, a lonely, spiritually searching Englishwoman. They fall deeply in love, but Boris keeps his past a secret. The romance is haunted by guilt, identity, and the unspoken. This role allowed Boyer to showcase a blend of spiritual torment, romantic vulnerability, and mystery, a complex, brooding male archetype rarely seen in Hollywood at that time. Before The Garden of Allah, Boyer had played mostly supporting roles or leads in lower-profile projects. This film marked his first major leading role in a high-budget, Technicolor American production. His on-screen chemistry with Marlene Dietrich, already a legendary figure, was a highlight. Critics and audiences noticed the contrast between her icy sensuality and his smoldering emotional depth. Boyer offered something different from the typical Hollywood leading men of the time like Clark Gable or Gary Cooper. He brought a European sophistication, emotional intelligence, and a soulful, internalized style of acting that American audiences found alluring and exotic. While reviews of the film were mixed, some critics found the pacing slow, Boyer's performance was widely praised. He was described as hauntingly effective, the New York Times. The movie was also a box office success, helped by its Technicolor spectacle, and gave Boyer the momentum to land increasingly important roles. After Charles Boyer's breakthrough performance in The Garden of Allah, 1936, Hollywood studios, especially Selznick International Pictures and later MGM, began crafting and strategically marketing his image for American audiences. Studios avoided promoting Boyer with typical American masculine traits like physical dominance or brashness. Instead, he was framed through intellectual depth. Magazine features often described him as thoughtful, philosophical, and introspective. Hollywood publicity departments worked carefully to create a consistent visual language around Boyer. He was frequently photographed in tuxedos with dim lighting, candles, and smoky backdrops. Unlike American stars who were often shown outdoors or in action, Boyer was often portrayed indoors, leaning on pianos, bookshelves, or balconies, suggesting thoughtfulness and elegance. Boyer's image was deliberately positioned as the opposite of the brute or the playboy. Conquest, 1937, an in-depth exploration.
I will kill you, Napoleon.
And make me a martyr? Oh, no. They'll keep me very much alive. They must tear every shred of greatness from me before they let me die.
Release year, 1937. Studio, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM. Director, Clarence Brown, with uncredited contributions from Gustav Machati. Based on the novel Pani Walewska by Wacław Gąsiorowski. The film tells the romanticized story of Napoleon's affair with Marie Walewska, a beautiful Polish countess during his campaign in Eastern Europe. Marie is portrayed by Greta Garbo, who was at the height of her fame at the time. The plot centers on the emotional and political tug-of-war between love, duty, and empire. Charles Boyer's character, Napoleon Bonaparte. Boyer plays Napoleon not as the usual bombastic military genius, but as a lonely, driven man, increasingly trapped by the burdens of power. His Napoleon is passionate but strategic, cunning but emotionally isolated. A man who, despite having a continent at his feet, craves love and legitimacy. His relationship with Marie Walewska, Garbo, begins as political manipulation. He seduces her because she represents Poland's noble class, and her support could rally the Poles to his cause. However, over time, he genuinely falls in love with her, creating a deep conflict between personal longing and imperial duty. Boyer's portrayal is notably restrained. He doesn't shout, storm, or swagger. Instead, he plays Napoleon as melancholy, introspective, and haunted by the scale of his ambitions. He allows moments of tenderness, especially in his scenes with Garbo, showing a man yearning for peace and connection. The New York Times wrote that Boyer brings a smoldering authority and unexpected warmth to the part. The pairing of Garbo and Boyer was a huge draw. Garbo was at her iconic peak, and MGM billed the film as a grand romantic epic, banking on the chemistry between two emotionally intense performers. Despite the star power and production values, Conquest was a financial disappointment. Its production costs were exceptionally high, over $2 million, and it failed to recoup them. Some critics found the film too slow or emotionally restrained. Algiers, 1938.
Oh, you make me laugh. You know what I like about you?
No, but I'm humbly waiting for you to tell me.
Your face. It's a perfect face for your job. To look that false is almost the equivalent of being honest.
Charles Boyer's signature role. Film overview, directed by John Cromwell, produced by Walter Wanger, based on the French film Pépé le Moko, 1937, which itself was adapted from a novel by Henri Labarthe. In Algiers, Boyer plays Pépé le Moko, a French jewel thief and fugitive hiding out in the Kasbah. a lawless quarter of Algiers where the police have no control. Pepe is both feared and revered within the Kasbah, living among outcasts and criminals, safe only so long as he never leaves its narrow, winding alleys. But his freedom is a prison.
Don't. Can't you ever get away from the Casbah?
Why do you ask?
Can't you?
No. I'm caught here, like a bear in a hole. Dogs barking, hunters all around. No way out of it. You like that?
And when he meets Gabby, a beautiful and elegant French tourist, played by Hedy Lamarr in her American debut, he falls in love and becomes desperate to escape. Gabby represents everything Pepe misses about France: beauty, refinement, and a lost world of passion and sophistication. Boyer's Pepe is a romantic anti-hero, not a typical gangster. He's tough but tortured, charismatic but vulnerable, cynical yet still clinging to dreams of love and escape. Boyer's performance is subtle and internalized. He uses body language, tone of voice, and most of all, his eyes to communicate the inner conflict of a man who's both trapped and restless. In the unforgettable climax, Pepe finally leaves the Kasbah to follow Gabby, but is tricked and captured by police. As he watches her ship leave from the harbor, he takes his own life, rather than return to a life without freedom or love. Boyer plays this scene with quiet heartbreak, avoiding melodrama. His performance is devastating in its restraint. Boyer's performance in Algiers was hailed by critics as a revelation. Reviews praised his ability to bring dignity and sensitivity to a criminal character. Hedy Lamarr, in her American debut, played Gabby, the refined French socialite who steals Pepe's heart. Although their screen time together is not extensive, their chemistry is electric, with Boyer's intensity playing off Lamarr's cool elegance. Love Affair, 1939.
He told me that you told... He said... Why didn't you tell me, Terry?
Darling.
If anything had to happen to one of us, why did it have to be you?
A landmark in romantic cinema. Basic film information. Director, Leo McCarey. Stars, Charles Boyer and Irene Dunne. Charles Boyer plays Michel Marnet, a world-famous French painter and notorious playboy. Michel is sophisticated, witty, and emotionally guarded, but underneath the suave exterior is a man longing for something deeper than casual flirtation. The film opens on a transatlantic cruise ship sailing from Europe to New York. Michel Marnet meets Terry McKay, played by Irene Dunne, an American nightclub singer. Both are engaged to other people, but their connection is immediate and undeniable. During the voyage, they fall in love, but with a shared sense of honor and realism, they agree to separate and only reunite if their love proves to be more than a shipboard romance. They make a pact. In 6 months, let's meet at the top of the Empire State Building. If we both show up, it means we're free and still in love. But on the day of their planned reunion, tragedy strikes. Terry is hit by a car on her way to the building and is left paralyzed. Out of pride and fear, she doesn't tell Michel what happened, thinking he won't want her anymore. Meanwhile, Michel believes she didn't show because she changed her mind. This role allowed Boyer to fully showcase his romantic sensibility, but with a modern restraint, critics at the time praised Boyer for a sensitive, intelligent performance that balances charm with deep emotional realism. Critics were enthusiastic. The New York Times. Boyer and Dunne deliver performances that feel lived in, not acted. Their love feels authentic. The film was nominated for 6 Academy Awards. Love Affair allowed Charles Boyer to become more than the mysterious foreign lover of Algiers. Hold Back the Dawn, 1941.
For richer, for poorer, for better, for worse, with this ring I thee wed.
Till death do us part.
Till death do us part.
Hold Back the Dawn is one of Charles Boyer's most emotionally complex and morally ambiguous performances, showcasing his unique ability to play characters who are both flawed and deeply human. Boyer plays George Iscovescu, a Romanian-born dance hall gigolo stuck in Mexico, trying to enter the United States. But because of strict U.S. immigration quotas for Eastern Europeans, he's forced to wait in a border town for years before he can be granted a visa. Tired of waiting, Georges devises a cynical plan. He will seduce and marry an unsuspecting American woman, then gain U.S. citizenship through the marriage. His target is Emmy Brown, Olivia de Havilland, a naive but kind American schoolteacher visiting Mexico with her students. Georges charms her with his elegance and vulnerability, and she falls for him quickly. But as the plan unfolds, Georges finds himself genuinely falling in love with her, which throws his carefully laid scheme into emotional chaos. After marrying Emmy and preparing to leave her, Georges watches her sleep, then hesitates. His face shows doubt, love, shame, all without a word. Boyer's restraint here is masterful. Unlike traditional Hollywood romances of the time, this story is full of emotional ambiguity. Georges is not noble, and he doesn't begin with good intentions. Emmy is not glamorous, but genuine and selfless. Their relationship grows in subtle, realistic beats, not grand gestures. The New York Times wrote, "Boyer crafts a layered character with shadows of regret and flickers of hope, a restrained, heartbreakingly human performance." Gaslight, 1944.
Your mother was mad.
Oh, Gregory.
She died in an asylum when you were a year old.
That's not true.
Now perhaps you will understand why I cannot let you meet people.
A masterclass in psychological thriller. Charles Boyer's role in Gaslight, 1944, is widely regarded as his most chilling, layered, and critically acclaimed performance, and one of the defining portrayals of psychological manipulation in cinema history. Charles Boyer plays Gregory Anton, a charming and sophisticated pianist who marries Paula Alquist, Ingrid Bergman, a fragile and emotionally vulnerable young woman. But beneath his polished surface lies a sinister purpose. Gregory isn't in love. He's a manipulative con artist. In reality, Sergis Bauer, the man who murdered Paula's aunt years earlier to steal her jewels. Now, years later, he returns in disguise, marries Paula, and moves into her inherited home, so he can search for the jewels he failed to find before. To keep her from interfering, he launches a calculated campaign to destroy her sanity, by isolating her, undermining her confidence, and making her doubt her own perceptions. Gregory Anton becomes the origin of the term gaslighting, which today means manipulating someone into doubting their own reality or memory. In the film, he hides objects, then accuses Paula of misplacing them. Dim the gaslights in the house, then denies it's happening. Tells others she's becoming mentally unstable. Deliberately lies, gasps, and feigns affection while slowly unraveling her sense of reality. Boyer plays this with a frightening level of calmness and control. Charles Boyer's performance is terrifying, not because he shouts or lashes out, but because of how quiet, measured, and psychologically insidious it is. Key aspects of his performance: charisma and sophistication. At first, Boyer's Gregory is affectionate, cultured, and devoted, the perfect European gentleman. This makes the psychological abuse more disturbing because it comes wrapped in silk. Emotional manipulation. Boyer shifts between sympathy and scorn, love and contempt within seconds. One moment he kisses Paula's hand, the next he's belittling her memory or accusing her of hysteria. Gaslighting as strategy. He never physically harms her, he simply erodes her sense of reality, making Paula and the audience question what's real. Charles Boyer's performance was unanimously praised by critics and peers alike. Many called it the best work of his career. What critics said. The New York Times wrote, "Boyer delivers a performance of cold brilliance. Every glance, every line drips with manipulation, masked as love." Boyer was nominated for Best Actor, his third Oscar nomination, and many believed he might win. Though he lost to Bing Crosby, Going My Way, Gaslight remains the most critically respected role of his career. The Earrings of Madame de, 1953, a masterclass in restraint and regret. In Max Ophüls' elegant romantic tragedy, The Earrings of Madame de, Charles Boyer plays General André, a dignified yet emotionally repressed aristocrat whose controlled exterior hides deep wounds. As the husband of the title character, played by Daniel Darieux, Boyer delivers a performance of quiet power. His general is a man bound by duty, pride, and appearances, until jealousy and heartbreak slowly unravel him. Boyer's acting is subtle but devastating. With a glance or a tightened jaw, he conveys volumes, the pain of betrayal, the loss of control, and the deep love he cannot express. Critics praised his performance as one of the film's most emotionally rich elements. In a film filled with visual beauty and moral ambiguity, Boyer anchors the story with dignified sorrow and smoldering restraint, proving once again his mastery of emotionally complex roles. Fanny, 1961.
I must say you have a great talent to enjoy life. So why don't you come along and enjoy it with us?
A poignant and nostalgic French tale. In Fanny, Boyer plays César Olivier, a kind, philosophical, and spirited café owner in the port city of Marseille. He is the father of Marius, a restless young man torn between duty and adventure. César is a pillar of his community, proud, occasionally gruff, but deeply loving. He struggles with the choices his son makes, especially when Marius abandons Fanny, a sweet local girl, played by Leslie Caron, whom he loves but leaves behind to join the merchant navy. Fanny later gives birth to Marius's child and marries Panis, a wealthy older man. César becomes a surrogate grandfather and emotional compass, helping the family navigate secrets, regrets, and reconciliation. Boyer's César is filled with wisdom gained from life's disappointments. He's the kind of character who listens before speaking and offers comfort rather than conflict. Boyer's performance was widely praised as one of the emotional anchors of the film. The New York Times said, "Charles Boyer gives a performance of immense heart and quiet authority. His César is a man shaped by loss, but not broken by it." This role earned Boyer his fourth Oscar nomination. Though he did not win, George Chakiris won that year for West Side Story. The nomination was seen as a tribute to Boyer's longevity, class, and evolution as an actor. Staviski, Niton City Fire. Staviski was one of Charles Boyer's final major film appearances, and it earned him a prestigious honor, the Best Actor Award at the Cannes Film Festival. The film is based on the real-life story of Alexandra Staviski, a charismatic Ukrainian-born financier and conman who became a symbol of scandal in 1930s France. Staviski was involved in a massive bond fraud scheme that rocked the French government, exposed deep political corruption, and led to national unrest. The film focuses not just on Staviski's schemes, but on the mood of a decadent, collapsing society, a France sleepwalking toward crisis before World War II. Charles Boyer plays Baron Raoul, an aging aristocrat and intellectual, a man from a previous, more refined era who becomes tangentially connected to Staviski's world. Boyer's character is deeply aware of the rot beneath society's glamour, and his presence adds a layer of gravitas and introspection to the film. Though his screen time is limited, Boyer's performance is considered one of the finest examples of acting with silence, stillness, and inner life. In one powerful scene, Baron Raoul sits in a dim room, reminiscing about the days before war and scandal. With only a few lines, Boyer communicates a lifetime of loss, disillusionment, and moral decay. Despite being a supporting role, Boyer was awarded Best Actor at Cannes, a rare and significant recognition for a veteran actor near the end of his career. The Guardian said, "An extraordinary late-career performance that radiates elegance, sorrow, and historical weight." Critics praised how Boyer elevated the tone of the entire film. His presence was like a conscience haunting the morally hollow world of Staviski. Charles Boyer's television career, a graceful transition to the small screen. As Charles Boyer's film appearances began to slow in the 1950s and 1960s, he embraced the emerging medium of television, but did so selectively and with the same elegance that defined his movie career. Rather than taking on numerous roles, Boyer approached television as an extension of his artistic legacy. One of his most notable contributions came with the anthology drama series Four Star Playhouse, 1952 to 1956, where he was not only a recurring star, but also one of the four founding partners of Four Star Television, alongside Dick Powell, David Niven, and Ida Lupino. The series featured high-quality, self-contained dramatic stories, and Boyer often appeared in romantic, philosophical, or morally complex roles. His involvement in Four Star Playhouse was groundbreaking. It helped elevate the quality of early television storytelling, and the series was praised for its cinematic polish and strong writing. Boyer's participation lent prestige to the format and proved that serious film actors could transition to television without diminishing their stature. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, Boyer made occasional appearances in other series, including The Rogues, 1964 to 1965, a stylish caper series in which he co-starred with David Niven and Gig Young. The show followed a charming trio of international con artists targeting the corrupt and wealthy. Guest roles on shows like The Name of the Game and It Takes a Thief, where Boyer added class and gravitas to every episode he appeared in. Though his TV work was less prolific than his film output, Boyer's appearances were always thoughtful, refined, and in keeping with his image. He viewed television not just as work, but as a medium where quality mattered. In this new format, just as in film, Charles Boyer remained a figure of sophistication and emotional complexity, a true artist who never compromised, regardless of the screen size. Charles Boyer's personal life, unlike many of his contemporaries, was marked by a rare stability and devotion, but also by deep and enduring tragedy in his final years. Charles Boyer married British actress Pat Patterson on February 20, 1934, shortly after his move to Hollywood. Their union became one of the longest and most admired marriages in show business at the time, not for its glamour, but for its genuine companionship and loyalty. Pat Patterson was born in England. Pat Patterson had a brief Hollywood career before retiring to focus on family life. She appeared in a handful of films in the early 1930s and met Boyer at a dinner party shortly after he arrived in the U.S. From the beginning, Pat was his emotional anchor, managing the household and shielding Boyer from Hollywood's often toxic social circles. Their marriage lasted 44 years, which was exceptionally rare for a star of Boyer's magnitude. Friends and colleagues described them as deeply in love, respectful, and supportive of each other. Pat left acting early to support Boyer's career and raise their family, choosing privacy over the spotlight. They settled into a quiet, cultured life in California and later had a home in Phoenix, Arizona. Boyer was known for being intensely private, but those close to him described him as gentle, intellectual, and devoted to his wife and son. In 1943, Charles and Pat welcomed their only child, Michael Charles Boyer. The boy was the center of their world. Charles, who had played devoted fathers on screen, was a loving and protective parent in real life. Michael grew up in a privileged but highly private environment. His father discouraged too much media attention, and the family led a low-profile life. Michael was raised with care and education as top priorities. In September 1965, their world shattered. Michael Boyer, aged 21, died by suicide from a self-inflicted gunshot wound while studying at the University of Arizona. The circumstances. Michael had reportedly been struggling with emotional distress, academic pressures, and possible depression. Some reports suggested he had failed a college exam and felt he had disappointed his parents, though the full extent of his mental health issues was never publicly detailed. The death was abrupt and shocking, with no public warning signs. Charles Boyer was devastated. He and Pat withdrew from public life for some time. Boyer rarely spoke publicly about the tragedy. Friends noted that while he continued to work occasionally, something in him was broken after his son's death. His performances after 1965, such as Staviski, 1974, took on a deeper melancholic tone, and critics often sensed an emotional undercurrent that may have stemmed from personal grief. In the mid-1970s, Pat was diagnosed with cancer. Charles cared for her during her long illness with quiet devotion. Her slow decline was emotionally painful for him, the second great love of his life slipping away. On August 24, 1978, Pat died after battling the illness for some time. She and Charles had been married for over 4 decades. Her death marked the end of Boyer's last emotional lifeline. Just 2 days after Pat's death, and 2 days before his 79th birthday, Charles Boyer took his own life. On August 26, 1978, Boyer was found dead at his home in Scottsdale, Arizona. The cause of death was a deliberate overdose of Seconal, a barbiturate sleeping pill. The act was calculated and quiet, not a cry for help, but a decision. Friends and biographers widely believed it was a final gesture of grief, not made in confusion, but with full clarity. He left behind no detailed public note, but the timing and circumstances were interpreted as a direct response to Pat's death. Boyer, who had lived with profound dignity, chose not to live without the 2 people he loved most, his son and his wife. Charles Boyer was buried alongside Pat and Michael at Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City, California, the family reunited in death. Their shared gravestone became a quiet testament to the love, tragedy, and privacy that defined Boyer's personal life. Charles Boyer led a remarkably scandal-free career, especially by Hollywood standards. He was known for his reserved intellectual demeanor and kept a low public profile. There were no known feuds, major affairs, or tabloid controversies tied to his name. His gentlemanly image was genuine, and both co-stars and directors spoke highly of him. He was admired for his politeness, discipline, and sophisticated European charm. His life was a love story, shaped by beauty and loss. And his memory lives on, not just in film history, but in every quiet moment of cinema that dares to feel. Thank you for watching. If Charles Boyer moved you, if his story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more journeys into the lives of classic Hollywood's most unforgettable icons.